What's up, everybody? My name is Joy Moya. I'm going to share with you an artistic testimony of memories that have helped me to define what I observe as beauty marks. I have divided these reflections into 13 chapters. Let's begin with chapter 6, Nothing But the Blood. If you lose enough blood, you will calm down. You will sit down and you will shut up. This chapter is heavy, so brace yourself. PCOS causes infertility. The hormone imbalance makes it difficult to get pregnant naturally, and it also creates a barrier to maintaining a pregnancy. I had about 2 unsuccessful rounds of IUI and about 3, maybe 4 rounds of IVF. I think it was more like 3. With the first IVF treatment, I had been married for about 2 years and was a new homeowner, very eager to move things around, get in the yard versus being still and putting my legs up. So it was unsuccessful. Now, the next time it took, and I almost had twins, but one died at about 2 months, and the other one I miscarried right at the beginning of 4 months. That was my very first miscarriage. I was at the hospital alone. My ex stayed for a good 45 minutes and went home. I had talked to my mom over the phone, and I'm sure she may have felt some type of way. Maybe she felt responsible because I had just hosted her a birthday party at my house. I was fully showing. I was so swollen, and there were a lot of people to see me pregnant for the first time. I cooked, I cleaned, I prepared, I served. And I remember there being 3 other people pregnant at the party at the same time. And statistics state that 1 in 4 women will have a miscarriage. And I was the one. So with that miscarriage, I gave birth to a boy. And I had him cremated. The next pregnancies were all the same. Lots of blood loss, constant hospital visits, a lot of worrying, and a lot of stress. There was one miscarriage labeled as an abortion because the doctor had advised that I would miscarry at any time. And because I was working downtown, I didn't want to have that experience in public. He said that since, the baby had lost its heartbeat, that, there was not a specific time frame as to when I would miscarry. It would just happen naturally. So it could have been at any time, and I decided, let's just go ahead and terminate the pregnancy. The last one I think I mentioned in another chapter, where the room was full of women. I didn't know. And while it was only the doctor and the nurse that tended to me, the other women were there in the room. And please excuse Ginger. She's having a moment. She wants to be in the video, or in the chapter as well, I suppose. But anyway, so there was, I was in the birthing room, and there were so many other women to just be there, and I don't know why they were there. I suppose it was just for support because, there was no one else at the hospital with me. Again, my ex came for about maybe 30-45 minutes off and on, and after I had the baby, that was that. I ended up giving birth to a girl. with that one. I didn't have an epidural, so I felt all of the contractions. I felt all of that pain, and it was coming so just vigorously and back to back. I couldn't do anything but cry. Right? I wanted those women out of the room. I wanted to, go through that alone by myself, but they were just there. And it was like, I want to say it was about maybe 7 or 8 of them just in a corner by the window, talking amongst themselves, not really looking at me or paying attention to me, but making sure that I knew that they were there, if that makes sense. Now, the other time I had a miscarriage, I suppose the ER thought that I was lying or crazy, because they put me in a room with a man who was severely drunk and obnoxious. Okay, I kept complaining about pain, and they did nothing. But eventually, they gave me either a Tylenol or an ibuprofen. They didn't take any vitals. I don't remember them taking any vitals. I don't remember them giving me a pregnancy test. They just put me in a room. They put me in a bed, and they just monitored me, and that was it. And I really think that they thought I was lying, or they thought I was having some type of chaotic episode. And I ended up going to the restroom and expelled the baby in the toilet. And they didn't check me. They offered no aftercare. And they discharged me to go home right afterwards. And there was no prescription for pain meds. And because I was going through so much at the time, because I was dealing with so much, I just didn't put up a fight. I didn't argue. I just kept going. I didn't say anything about it. But I think I mentioned this in my book, I think. Now, as far as the hospital is concerned, I'm sure they knew and they understood the big mistake that they made with not offering me the proper care, because they immediately closed. They immediately closed, and there's a whole new hospital there at that location now. Right? So I was done dirty at that time. Now, with the last pregnancy, I had, I went to a wedding and I tried my best to have a good time. Right? I was still having the same complications, lots of bleeding, lots of worrying and stress, lots of hoping and wishing that I would make it to the second trimester, because this was the last one. This was the last pregnancy. So we went to a wedding, and I remember sitting at the reception at the table, and everyone was eating and just, I guess, trying to have a good time. But to me, the vibes were off. They were completely off. I remember my ex and I being talked about around the table through text. So there were like a few couples texting themselves back and forth, and we were being talked about. You can just tell when you're being talked about, okay? The conversation is different, the energy is different, eye contact is different. But the only thing that I could think about at that time was, am I going to lose the baby, and am I going to have a miscarriage, at at the wedding reception. I didn't move because I didn't know if there would be like a blood stain on my clothes. I was so worried because I always lost a lot of blood when I was pregnant for whatever reason. I don't know. No one knows why there were so many blood clots and loss of blood for me while I was pregnant each time. So those who were close to me knew about the pregnancies and they knew about the miscarriages. I had one aunt say to me at some point during one of my pregnancies, she was like, "Where's the baby? I don't see the baby." So that just made me aware at that point how people would be nice, nasty, or say things to get under my skin. Because again, me with the heart that I have, I just didn't expect it. I didn't look for it. I didn't recognize how people would try to offend me. But God made me open my eyes. He made me pay attention to people. Because again, with my heart, with the way that my mother raised me, with the love that I have, for people, I just did not recognize how some people, even within my family, would be so nasty. Okay? So, not all of the pregnancies were through assistance. There were a couple that surprised me and happened naturally. Okay, Ginger, what is it? Okay, guys, Ginger is having a moment. She wanted to be a part of this recording. All right. So moving on, during my years and months of school, okay, I lost a lot of loved ones. I lost pregnancies and I lost loved ones. In total, I lost 4 cousins, 4 aunts, 4 uncles. I lost both parents. There were a total of 6 miscarriages in no particular order. Okay, but back to back, to whereas I understood that God was trying to get my undivided attention. And let me just say to you that He definitely got it. I think He wanted to point out that the enemy had me the enemy had me in his radar. The enemy had me in his path, right? And so God was doing everything that He could to get my attention. I would say that this particular chapter is reflective of Job, how he lost so much. He lost so many people. He lost so much. And still he, praised God. He believed in God. And he kept going. So, yeah. When all of this took place, like as it was going on, I definitely felt some type of way. Okay, now I'm not gonna hold you and make you think that I was just this strong person all the time. Like there were times when I couldn't get out of bed. What I didn't realize though is that after each miscarriage that I would suffer some type of depression. Like I would eventually have some type of grief compounded on top of the loss of family members. Now, I did not think that I needed therapy. I did not think that I needed grief counseling. But if I am to be honest, I definitely needed therapy after the loss of the pregnancies, and definitely after the loss of my parents and just so many other family members. But again, I I did go to therapy. I want to point that out. I did go to therapy, and I did check myself into a hospital for about a week, right? But let me just say that being a young woman, being newly married, and just trying to maintain a posture of strength, I suppose, that I didn't want to open up and do the work and do the research and do the digging that was required to actually heal from all of this. And yeah, I'm gonna stop there for a minute. Okay, so what you will notice with this particular collage is that my weight fluctuated. So after pregnancy, I dropped down and lost a lot of weight. I got really skinny. And then, mind you, so I did the IVF treatments, and that meant that I would gain a lot of weight. So the IVF treatments were a lot to deal with because they consisted of not only the pill form, but it also consisted of shots. And I think I had to give myself maybe about 3 or 4 shots a day for like a month or something like that. I forget because it was so long ago. But yeah, that's why you notice me in the mirror taking a picture to actually reflect how my body transformed before and after pregnancy. You'll also notice that I am very, very sad in some of the in some of the pictures. Now, with the last pregnancy, there was a group of people who celebrated the fact that I lost the pregnancy. Okay, so I knew that at that point I had to move forward with starting a new life. I will definitely say that. There was a friend, there was this person who actually took me to the hospital at the last miscarriage, the one where all the nurses were in the room. And I don't know if I mentioned this part or not, but as soon as we pulled up to the emergency room door, she parked to go and get a nurse or go and get a wheelchair, because if I had moved, then I feared that something would happen, and it did. As soon as I stepped foot out of her truck, my water broke. So it broke, and water was everywhere. It just splashed all over the ground and my leg. And the nurse who came out to get me with the wheelchair, because as soon as I stepped foot out of the car, out of her truck, it broke. So we just all stood there for like a few minutes, just dumbfounded. And when he wheeled me into the hospital, he left me in the middle of the hallway. It just smack dead in the middle, in the way. And I was so cold, and I don't understand why he wouldn't put me, to the side, off to the side. He just left me in the middle, in the open, with no blanket, no covering, and just left me there. And I was there for all of maybe 10 minutes right? It seemed like forever, but it was 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, okay? But still, I would have preferred to have been wheeled off to the side, out of everyone's view, out of the way of walking traffic in either direction. That's just how in the middle of space I was. But I got through that. And so that particular friend eventually removed all of the leftover medicine, all of the leftover needles, because I had held on to all of that. And I don't know if I was hoping that I would try again, or if I was just didn't know how to expose of it. But she did that for me, and I was so grateful. But yeah, you'll notice here, definitely, with the heaviness in my face, or the heavier body weight, reflects right after pregnancy, or right before pregnancy, with all of the medicine. And then with the smallness in frame is after a loss of pregnancy as well.